Hi, Sejal.
Hi Shamal, how are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you doing?
All well.
Good.
So I'm just going to quickly introduce Shamal and welcome my guest today. This is Shayamal Vallabhjee. So Shamal is a sports scientist and a performance psychologist. He spent 20 years, working with athletes, celebrities, helping them unlock their physical, mental, and emotional potential. And he's worked with the likes of Sachin Tendulkar, Amitabh Bachchan, 500 Fortune leaders, Olympic medal winners, and ATP players. And he's also a fitness enthusiast and a good friend. So welcome,
Yes.
Shamal.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So Shamal, you're a performance psychologist. My first question to you is about motivation.
Yes.
So tell us what keeps a top performer motivated.
That's an interesting question. For motivation, what you need is you need to have your purpose clearly defined. You know,
Okay?
a person who lacks motivation is somebody who really doesn't know where they're going and what they want to achieve. You know,
Yeah.
so the first step is to know where you want to go or what is your true north. What is it that you want to achieve? The second step is to define your milestones or your micro tasks that you need to do every single day. And once you define that, motivation falls into play. Motivation is really and truly is probably another and a better phrase for motivation is lack of clarity. You know, when there's no
Yeah.
motivation, there is a lack of clarity on what you need to do. And
Yeah.
once the clarity appears on what you need to do and clarity appears on why you need to do that, you are motivated every single day to
Yeah.
achieve your best. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, can you tell us what? I think I've lost you. The connection was bad. Okay, it's back.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I was talking about breath work. I've heard you speak about breath work in a lot of talks of yours. So, can you tell us
Yes.
what is breath work and how does it benefit someone?
So interestingly, I don't, I'm not a yoga teacher or a pranayama teacher. I use the
Yeah.
science of breath to really emotionally heal pain and to really get people to understand what they're feeling. I use it from a mindfulness and from an awareness perspective. So your breath is probably one of the most neglected components of the human physiology, and not just for you, for every single one of us. It's the one area that we take for granted. But
Right.
we take anywhere between probably 18 and 25,000 breaths a day. Okay, and it's such a vital part because it can help you rejuvenate, it can help you recover, and your breath is really the gateway to your subconscious mind. So I use it
Yeah.
in that sense. When I get people to focus on long, prolonged exhalations, okay,
Okay.
then what it does is it stimulates the vagus nerve. And when you stimulate the vagus nerve, you really truly calm down and you bring your body and your mind to a point of stillness. And
Okay.
when you're at the point of stillness, you can truly start going deeper and deeper and introspect on whatever it is that you are perceiving. And you can
Yeah.
determine whether what you're perceiving is reality or whether it's a version of reality. And that's really the important thing. The important thing is to be
Yeah.
able to still the mind, and the
Yeah.
best way to still the mind is your breath, and that's what I sort of advocate. I teach people
Yeah.
how to use their breath to get their mind under control more than anything else.
Yeah. So I think this could be a good time to do a little bit of breath work because most of us need to calm down and to kind of like just settle.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's no better time for breath work. And you're saying something really interesting. You're saying that now is a great time to do it. You know,
Yeah.
obviously, if you start a practice right now, you're gonna get immediate benefits out of it.
Yeah.
In literally 1 or 2 minutes, you'll start seeing the benefit of really pausing and breathing. But
Right.
throughout this entire time, I found out something really interesting. I found out that the people who coped best with this entire situation, with confinement, with lockdown, were people who, in some shape and form, were in touch with really a spiritual thread in their life. So they either cultivated a good yoga practice, they're aware of a higher self, they're aware of the need to sort of pause and reflect. They were able to connect to the breath and still. And people who
Yeah.
had that sort of regularity in their
Yeah.
practice were the ones who really are able to leverage that in every shape and form and really still the mind at a time like this. People weren't in touch with their higher self or spiritual self, are the ones who are really, enveloped by panic and anxiety and fear and stuff like that. So it's really, yes, you can start right now and you'll get some immediate benefits from it. But I think the lesson one needs to draw is how important it is to have a practice in your life that truly connects you to your higher self.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. I think I'm going to look up a little more and try breathwork for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, Shaman, you've worked with so many top performers in the last 20 years, So
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen some common beliefs or, habits or qualities amongst all these people. So can you throw some light on this?
I mean, everybody is so subtle and everyone's so nuanced in their shape and form. And the one true thing is, yesterday I was having a conversation with somebody who believes that, the only way to get success is to really, really work exceptionally hard, 15, 16 hours a day. And he really punishes himself for any mistakes and any errors that happen. And that served him well because he's a very, very successful corporate executive, CEO of his company, doing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Would that psychology have worked in the world of professional sport? The answer is no, because professional athletes can't work 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
and we fail more than 70 to 80% of the time. So can we be hard and
Yeah.
punish ourselves for every failure? The answer is no. So the only real secret for success is to trust your process,
Yeah.
and the example that I generally give people is, I said, if you look at a farmer who's trying to plant a tree, okay,
Yeah.
he understands his process. He knows that I can only plant at a certain time of the year.
Right.
I've got to till the soil. I've got to,
Yeah.
at a certain depth, I've got to put the seed in, I cover it, I can throw in some fertilizer, I've got to water it, I've got to do that. And then the tree will manifest, isn't it? Now, if that farmer goes every single day and digs up that soil to check if that seed is growing, the tree will never manifest,
Yeah.
So the true secret for success is really to have unshakable faith in your process to getting you
Right.
to where you want to. And that's really it is. Because the truth is that there are multiple roads that can get one to success in whatever shape and form that you deem it. So you can choose any one of these paths, but have unwavering faith in the process that you choose.
All right. So I think what I've understood is trusting the process is the key.
Totally. Trusting the process is the key for everything. Yeah.
All right. So Shaman, you're a sports scientist, but I think you're also highly spiritual. So, you've been a monk for nearly 4 years. So
Yeah.
what made you choose that path? And, do you see a similarity between your spiritual side and your scientific side?
In some shapes and forms, it's quite a fascinating question. I always tell people I'm bringing the world of evidence-based medicine and spirituality together. And when I tell this to a highly spiritual person like my spiritual masters, people like Bhakti Charuswami or Radhanath Swami, when I'm talking to them, they tell me spirituality is an evidence-based science. So there is really no two different worlds. But in the Western world, we see evidence-based as something that's completely different, and we define it completely different to how we define evidence-based in the world of spirituality. So what moved me to sort of become a monk was that real inquiry into the power of the mind and how to control the mind. I was going through a lot at that time in South Africa during the apartheid era, and I was really becoming a person I wasn't happy with. And I really wanted to get that into control. And who better place to go to than to move into a temple where they specialize in self-inquiry and they specialize in understanding the mind more than anything else. So that was where I moved into. And spirituality has really been the stepping stone for me in terms of how do I marry the world of Western psychology with ancient scriptures, and how can I use Vedic sciences and ancient sciences as the gateway or doorway to heal some of the things that Western science has sort of diagnosed. So I do sit at an interesting confluence between these two, and I apply to a very rational mind in this process. When I work and I deliver talks, and sometimes I'm fortunate enough to be in the presence of yoga teachers, and I'm fortunate to be in retreats where they are doing work, and I say, you all are deeply ingrained in the practice of
Sure.
asanas and the practice of breath work, and you'll understand the practice of this art. My job is to understand the physiology and the psychology of that art and to marry the gap between those two. Because I come from a rational mindset. For me, if I understand something, then I know how it works. And I think that was probably the one thing where science has really helped me. Science has made me extremely inquisitive. And every scientist is like that. A scientist is someone who doesn't answer questions, but is someone who questions the answers. And you keep questioning the answers because you try to define something. And when you define something, then you really know how it works in every shape and form. Yeah.
So are you a spiritual scientist or a scientific spirit?
I don't know what I am. I don't try to box myself into anything. I try to be non-judgmental. I try to look at things through multiple lenses, and I'm always fighting titles. I'm always fighting it, like for example, people say sports scientist, and the less you say about me, the better, the happier I am actually, because when someone introduces me as a sports scientist, I feel I need to conform to the sports science world. When someone says, oh, he was a former monk, I feel I need to conform to that world. And in trying and attempting to conform to these labels that we give ourselves, I skew my ideology to fit that lens. So I'm actually most happiest when someone doesn't give me any lens at all to skew, and I can just be. Yeah.
Sure. All right. So I'm just going to see if anybody has questions. I'm just going to
Yeah,
look
if they
out
have
for
questions, it'll be interesting to take a few of them.
Okay, I'm just going to look up. There's a ton of things that have popped up. All right. Does anybody have questions? Maybe, sir, what is the best way to improve? Let's stop there. Okay.
So whilst okay.
Okay, there's
So
one
whilst
question
they
here.
okay,
Sorry, you were saying
let's go.
something, Shamal.
So I was saying, in the practice of yoga, I thought, let me ask you a question whilst we waiting for them to write their questions. As a yoga practitioner, we spend such a significant amount of time in cultivating the body, But I think in Ashtanga, in yoga, and in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, actually, there's really one asana, there's one shloka where he actually speaks about asanas, and the rest is talking about the inquiry of the self,
Right.
How important is that process of self-discovery? And is the process of self-discovery through asanas, or is it two tracks that run parallel, or is it the same thing? Do you really uncover yourself through your asanas, or there are two tracks that need to be cultivated separately?
So in Ashtanga Yoga, asana is basically just one limb, and it's basically the first step to self-discovery. Through asanas, you kind of control of your body, and through the breathing, you're actually doing your pranayama in a way. And later on, we get into the other limbs. So there's yaman, there's niyama, there's dharana, dhyana, pratyahara, samadhi, all of those other limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, because there are 8 limbs, and asana is just one small limb out of it. So you're right that, there's so much more to self-discovery, but asana is the first step, because the whole idea of Ashtanga Yoga is to get in control of your body and mind, and that's possible only when your body is free of any kind of, diseases and things like that, and which is, I think asanas are the best way to kind of, get yourself to be healthy and, to cleanse your system.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah. So there's a few questions.
Sure, we can take them. Yeah.
How to control the mind when it goes negative?
How to control the mind when it goes negative? That's an interesting question. I think I get asked this question almost every single day. So there are a lot of people who are trying to focus on saying, and people ask me, how do I get rid of negative thoughts? If I asked you to close your eyes and I said, you know what, I do not want you to think of an elephant, the first image that will pop into your mind will be the image of an elephant would come in. Because for you to not think of something, your mind needs to first process what that is to not think of it. So when you're saying to yourself, I do not want to think negatively, right? Your first thing your mind has to do is process what a negative thought is before it realizes that, no, I don't want that. So you are being counterintuitive by bringing what you don't want into the focus of your attention and awareness. So the real way to sort of shift your thinking is to not worry about your negative thoughts, but to just look at processes in which I can think positively. And even if it means putting a reminder on your phone, like I have 8 reminders on my phone. So I pause for 8 times in the day where I take 2 or 3 minutes off and I just send love and gratitude and positivity to everyone I know and everyone around me, from the trees, the plants, wherever. Because negative energies is a lower frequency and positive energies is at a higher frequency. The love, the compassion, the kindness, the gratitude. So if you're really resonating at a higher frequency, lower frequencies will never bother you, you know. But if you're thinking that I need to get rid of the lower ones before I cultivate a higher one, then you're going to be lost in this process. So my advice to everyone is, don't even worry about negative. Just ask yourself, how can I give love, compassion, kindness, positivity to people around me every single day? What are the reminders I need to put on it? Some people wear rubber bands or strings around that. So every time they see that color, that's a reminder to be positive and give love. Some people put gratitude stones and gratitude rocks everywhere. So every time they see that, they hold it and they pause for a moment and express gratitude. I have reminders on my phone. I stick sticky notes everywhere. So fill your environment with biofeedback that reminds you, raise your vibrational energy. And if you do this consistently over a period of time, you won't be negative anymore.
Right. Yeah. Okay. The next question is how to start meditating for a long time.
Well, how to start meditating is the first question. For a long time is the second question. So if you are meditating already for a short time and you've got that done, then meditating for a long time wouldn't be a problem. So I'm guessing that the question, or the person answering this question is asking is because they have a problem with meditating for a short time. Just an assumption. So the first question is, you need to be comfortable with yourself. And you mentioned something really interesting, Sejal. You said that asanas is a way of freeing the body of its pain, and then you'll be able to really focus and rise up to your higher self, isn't it? So the first thing is that what is your stumbling block to that meditation? Is it that I'm trying to sit in a position that I'm not comfortable for a longer period of time? So relinquish the need to sit cross-legged in a lotus position on the mat. If that's your stumbling block, get rid of it. Sit down on a chair comfortably. Then the second thing is get comfortable with being by yourself. So don't even worry about meditating. First, be comfortable with yourself. Remove all your distractions. Learn to be your own best friend. Learn to enjoy your own company. Okay. Thereafter that, start practicing the art of doing one thing at a time. Okay. So the reason why people cannot meditate is because they've mastered the art of distraction. They're so good at doing so many things at once that when they ask their mind to do one thing, they aren't able to do that. And what you can look at this really positively in that you have trained your mind to be very good at distraction. You have practiced distraction for such a long period of your time that you're now a master of it, right? Which means that you can become a master of focus and attention as well. So the best way to sort of practice meditation is to be comfortable with yourself, sit in a comfortable place, but start cultivating the art of being mindfully present in every single task that you do, whether it's eating, whether it's drinking, whether it's sleeping, whether it's listening to a conversation, reading a book, whatever it is. Master the art of just holding your attention on a single thing, and thereafter everything will fall in place.
Right. I think this lockdown is teaching us to get comfortable with ourselves, literally, because we're just with ourselves the whole day.
Yeah, that's a very good question, you know, and I encourage people to ask this question often. What is, if you come from a truly spiritual lens, you know that every experience in your life, be it positive or negative, has come into your life to teach you something, you know, and you are probably know this better than anyone else. With your accident, you ask yourself this question, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this? Right. Now, we generally ask these questions to incidents that pertain to us as an individual. Now we have an incident that is impacting the entire globe, but we are a part of the globe. So we are a part of the entire cosmos being impacted by it. So ask yourself that question, what do you think is the one thing that I needed to learn through
Yeah.
this entire lesson that the world is going through, and constantly refine your answer as part of your growth process.
Yeah, I know, because I keep getting a lot of messages from people, and they're like, "Oh my God, this I don't know what to do with myself, because I've never had so much time on me. Like I have been running, and there's suddenly so much of time. Like this scarce resource is like in abundance now."
Yeah, yeah. I was doing a live maybe 2 weeks ago, and someone says, they told me, the person interviewing saying, I'm really such a busy person, and I'm always doing 100 things at once. And I said, that's very good. And she says, what do I do with my time now? Well, I said, if I use your logic and you're very good at doing 100 things at once, you should be exceptionally good at doing one thing, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that you can't, right? And that is the lesson that you need to draw from this here. That doing 100 things at once, I've become a master of, a jack of all trades, a master of none. I have diminished my focus across 100 things. And when I'm truly required to hold my focus on a single thing, I can't. And I summed it up by telling her that she says, how can I be, her question was, how can I be productive instead of doing nothing? So I said, why don't you look at it as doing nothing is being productive? Which means that if you can hold your awareness on nothing, you have really transcended all levels of productivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to look at a few more questions before we end this. So someone asked, please explain coexistence of spirituality and inner peace.
Coexistence of spirituality. So, there's a difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is really and truly a cultivation of your higher self. Spirituality is truly the alignment of your energy with that of the universe. You really see yourself as a part of this bigger energy. You resonate with the fact that we all are connected through energy. Quantum mechanics speaks of that, where we all are energy bodies, and that's how we communicate with each other. And so spiritual practices, coexisting in a spiritual world, or spiritual practices and the cultivation of the inner self, are really one and the same thing. It's only when you're truly able to kill the ego, right? When the ego dies, do you find the doorway to the inner self. When you find the doorway to the inner self, you truly appreciate yourself as an energy body and not as a physical body. When you appreciate yourself as an energy body, you really realize that it's energy that connects us at a spiritual level, and that's what it is. So, when we use the word spirituality, I generally tell people, don't use big words, don't confuse yourself with everything. Just realize that spirituality is really me connecting to who I truly am, and me resonating with the frequency of that universe, which means that resonating with the frequency of the universe. One astrophysicist once told me a beautiful story. He says, the universe has energy laws that we all need to abide by. One such energy law is gravity. So you can take a stone, no matter how strong you are, you can throw it, and it can only defy the law of the universe for such period of time before it needs to move in alignment with that universe, which means it will defy gravity, but at some stage, that stone will start working in alignment with gravity. So the energy laws of the universe are exactly the same. Energy laws are the laws of compassion, the laws of love, the laws of seeing one, we are a part of the whole. The law of realizing that we care for each other, we're better off. Now, if you are inwardly focusing your energy, if you are being narcissistic, if you're being selfish, if you're being consuming all of the resources of the planet to hold on for yourself, you're going against the laws of the universe, and that can only happen for so long. At some stage, you will have to learn a lesson that brings you in alignment with the energy laws of the world. So one of the best things to do as a spiritual practice is realize that as a spiritual being having a physical experience, it's in my best interest to truly align myself with the energy of the universe, which is higher vibrations of love, positivity, compassion, and things like that.
Interesting. All right, we'll just take one last question. So,
sure.
How do you keep yourself happy?
How do I keep myself happy? I don't know. I'm always happy, and I think you know this more than anything else. One is I keep my I keep myself happy by being mindfully present at all times, you know. So whether I'm in a conversation or whether I'm doing a task, I'm giving 100% to it, you know. I keep myself happy through service, through the ability to serve people in some shape and form. Uh, I also keep myself happy by mindfulness allows me to enjoy an experience, but I also practice equanimity. Equanimity is, you know, even when I'm feeling joy, I keep joy at a distance. Even when I'm feeling anger, I keep anger at a distance. And when you keep everything at a distance, but you're able to enjoy it from that distance, then you're really not affected by too many things, isn't it? You know, and that's the secret for me personally, is the cultivation of a mindful awareness practice along with equanimity, which keeps me at a distance from it, you know. And because it's very difficult for a human being to pick and choose the emotions through which he wants to deeply immerse and not. And it's highly possible, but it takes a lot of practice. So if you're going to start feeling everything, you're going to start feeling the negative with the positive, you know. So the first thing to do is to practice equanimity and distance yourself, because Buddhism speaks of impermanence. The happiness is as impermanent as the pain is, you know. So when you understand impermanence, you realize that, okay, this experience is here in the now. What can I learn from it if it's pain, and how can I enjoy it if it's anything else? And that's the secret to happiness.
Right. All right. Let's just look at any one. There's so many questions, we won't be able to take all of them, but how do you keep motivation? We've spoken about how to give 100% on one thing, how to concentrate on one thing. I can't concentrate. Somebody's saying.
Yeah, you answered your own question. How to give 100% on one thing is by giving 100% on one thing. You know, that's the only way to learn the art of giving. And remember, you get better at it. You get better and better at the art of giving 100% on one thing. You know, and the more you train yourself, and you have to be strict on the mind. You know, the mind is like it's like a baby. You know, you need to teach it. You need to like hone it. You need to govern it. The first time you sit down and you try to read a book and focus or write an email, the mind will go in 1,000 different directions. And like how you condition everything, you have to condition it to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. You know, most people don't want to discipline the mind. So as a result, they fall victim to a distracted mind. You know?
Sure.
So
I think
when
very
you,
true.
so you got to cultivate the art of being disciplined and wanting to discipline your mind. And when you can do that, everything else will fall in place. But there's no shortcut to disciplining the mind. It's practice.
All right, great. I think we'll end it with this. So, but I'm not going to let you go before you give us a final dose of motivation, since I think in these times we all need it the most.
So I mean, I think we've given them a lot of motivation. I think right now, for me, I think what I've been trying to do is I'm trying to practice just being. You know, I'm trying to practice at a time like this. One of the best things for you to do is to look at, you know, how can I be of help to others? How can I serve others? You know, you can focus on everything that you don't have, and that will pull you into a terrible slump. And you can be grateful for what you have, and the way to be grateful for that is to look at how can I serve those that are less fortunate. And when you start moving and shifting your focus away from I to us, you know, then you start focusing on the negatives. And I think right now, the biggest trap anyone could fall into is in the trap of thinking of I, worrying about me, worrying about I. So if you can break that cycle, then I think you're in a good position for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Great. So I think this was awesome, Shayamal.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who joined.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Shayamal.
Thanks, Sejal. Take care. Bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.